you can learn how to say no, how to stop a person, and hopefully that will be successful. Good. It's very good. But doesn't necessarily mean that you understand things.
Yeah.
And maybe in true life you will reach a point where you just can't do that for whatever reason. Because maybe that person wants to stop is your boss, so you don't want to lose your job. I'm not saying we have to accept that or something, but I'm proposing we have to be realistic. So, to say this differently, I think it's very good to address the children, not the children, but when they are a little bit more almost adolescent. It's very good. I totally support that, to educate them with, making them acknowledge the value of informing the teacher, educator, whoever person is, including the friends and so on, to say stop. And to say, you have to stop this, or to say no, is the same.
Yeah.
I think it's very important, but it's not enough, because it's purely technical. And it doesn't provide a really much a realistic understanding of reality. Nevertheless, I repeat, it's very good, and I totally support it. I think it should be done. The problem is that, again, it doesn't provide a rational and realistic understanding of reality, and what it eventually does is that it definitely fuels, in case it is performed successfully, it fuels personal self-esteem, which is good, and psychological reinforcement, which is equally good. But then, at the same time, what is going to happen when a child is pretty much that age? That is if we stick to only that, then how the child will develop that maybe series of memories and events where the child successfully achieved something by refusing, denying, or saying no. How that self-propensity and personal database is going to evolve.
Yeah.
If there is no, that eventually the person will become rebellious, and then eventually the person will, that age is very difficult to mislead and to confuse things. Eventually the person will enter university and will very systematically be kicked out of the room just because the person disagrees with the teacher's methodologies, and eventually that is not even true that those methodologies are nasty or violent, just because the child is no longer a child now, but is still a very young person, is just in disagreement with those methodologies. So hopefully that won't happen, but it's tricky. So I definitely value that. I think children at that age, particularly before the adolescence, they have to know how to say no and how to say stop. I think it's very important, because that makes them dominant. But how can we make them dominant rationally without reinforcing or feeding too much their personal perception of self-esteem, even pride and rebelliousness, particularly that age, because that is where after 1-2 years, when they enter 13, 14, 16, that is where rebelliousness kicks in.
Well, because we're teaching them the difference between healthy and unhealthy authority.
Yeah. That is crucial. Like, I think children, because saying no or saying stop doesn't necessarily mean you are discharging the whoever the authority figure is there. You are eventually acknowledging the authority. You are my bloody teacher. You are the authority. I want to learn what you have to teach me. But teaching is something, the behavior is something else. And the behavior applies to the teaching. So it's very important to train, educate a child to comprehend what is what. So also because the person, the child, understands decently, actually more than sufficiently, how to say no, how to propose a stop, and in what context. Doesn't mean doesn't mean that person is discharging the authority or not recognizing the authority of the teacher anymore. I think it's important to understand why we are uncomfortable. So,
yeah. Yes.
well, fundamentally, if all of this stuff that is quite complex is intertwined with anger issues, then we are not going to understand a thing, really. Or maybe we are going to understand things theoretically on paper eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, that's true. But we are not going to understand any practical, pragmatic, and efficient and reasonable application of the understanding we are supposed to achieve, because there are anger issues, and that clouds the mind dramatically. And you can even develop strange ideas that maybe we are right about something when we are not. And then also irrational reactions, and all the sort of stuff. So what I'm trying to say is that whatever the anger issues, despite the problem that triggered our anger issues is eventually and hopefully objective, and it is external, it's coming from the outside. Well, the anger issues is our problem.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with whatever or whoever triggered that problem. We should get rid of the triggers. Not get rid of the trigger. Keep the trigger separated from the problem, because that is my problem. So, for example, if a person triggered my anger, and therefore my anger issues, and they go together, anger and anger issues go together, and that person triggered that because that person has been acting like a moron, as an idiot, as a provocateur, as a stupid person, and therefore I'm so upset because you're so stupid. You are such an idiot, such a jerk, such a this and that. Fine. That is true eventually. Well, I have to find out if that is really true. Sometimes it's not. But even when that is objectively true, that person or whatever is the trigger. The anger issue is not the problem. The anger issue is my problem.
Yeah.
And so if we want to think in terms of what the problem is, the stupidity is that person's problem, which became mine. But the anger issues is not that person's problem. Yeah. It's mine.
Yeah.
And it's quite hard to simultaneously keep, at the same time, any reason about that, the analysis between an external problem and our inward problems. That is very hard. It's a form of rationally managed bipolarity. We are not designed that is completely anti-Darwinian. But we are an anti-Darwinian species, and that there is nothing wrong with that. It's actually absolutely good. Not completely anti-Darwinian, but we are getting there. It's just super counterintuitive. And let me repeat this. It's very hard to process simultaneously that at the same time, hopefully reducing the cognitive speed when that is possible and should be made possible.
Yeah, I can see maybe sitting and taking some time to maybe write some notes or something like that. I can see that these kind of things would be helpful. But then there is the element of we develop a territorial mentality. Like if I'm shouting, it's because I want you to back off my territory kind of attitude, which obviously is caveman attitude. It's fine.
But that is Darwinian.
Okay, so if I have that mentality, then I'm imagining, because there is no actual territory, I'm becoming my territory. Yeah?
Memetic.
Yeah.
Memetic territory. Yes.
So if I'm setting my territory to then tell that person to back off from, I'm I'm creating some sort of, if we were to, some kind of, so my territory is my psychological security.
No, it's the illusion of psychological security. But yeah.
So when my child is attacked, my psychological security is not under attack. And yet, when I develop the anger issues and I go and push that at somebody else, I am using the idea that somehow my psychological security has been attacked. There's a fallacious connection there. No?
Not fallacious, it's more bias. That is implicit bias, because you don't even have the time to perform a logical fallacy.
No, okay. Well, it doesn't. It's not massively important, that bit. It's what's going on. Technically, what is the pattern that's happening? Because if I can name the pattern procedure, then at some point I can pause it because I recognize it. So, for example, the creation of the territory, the translation that must be my psychological security. Because when I'm going to talk to somebody, it's because they are creating some sort of problem. But if I'm creating a territory, then I'm creating that as the problem. But that's not the problem. The problem is what they are creating.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So I'm making an extra problem by creating my psychological territory.
Yeah, definitely. That is based also, well, that is Darwinian, I understand that, but it's fundamentally, from a memetic viewpoint, a non-Darwinian viewpoint is based on what? Values, implicit meanings, personalization, taking things personally, and of course the quantity speed that is used there. So all those things are problems. So why would we add the further problems to the pre-existing problem, assuming that problem is an objective problem? Then it really makes no sense at all.
No, okay, but one second, slow it down, because I need to look at. Yes, okay, we have the territory is called but it is the values and the implicit meanings. Yes, okay, but when I need to visualize it a little bit more, and watch it how it changes, because if I can watch it how it changes, if we can experience it here through talking about it, then by watching how that changes and how I distract almost the issue by creating a floor to talk from, rather than removing my floor, and we're only going to talk about the issues that the other person is creating. And so therefore we're talking about their flaw. But do I need to be talking about their flaw? I need to be talking about something in between that, because when we have my territory and your territory, so we're kind of creating some polarized interaction. Do I need to be, does the other territory even need to be there?
So can you repeat the last question?
By creating my territory.
Yeah.
That is warring against your territory. I'm creating a polarized conversation.
Yeah, of course, inevitably.
Of course, to you. This is all obvious to you. But I have to be able to think about this in this way so that I can see the movement, psychological movement. So I'm creating my territory, but if I'm talking about the problem that they're making, does their territory even need to be there?
No, it doesn't have to be there, because the psychological movement they are talking about is in a situation like that, when we mark the territory and stuff like that, the memetic territory, is or completely informed by the human limbic system. So there is nothing good about it. And we think it's logical. How many people are prone to say, no, that's my logic, I'm right.
Yeah, but it's still entirely... I definitely don't think it's logical. The problem I have is that I know that it's problematic. I know that it's illogical, but I can't identify it separately to the logic or the reasoning that I have regarding the objective problem. It's too well stitched together for me to identify. Oh no, I have to unpick that piece. I have to unpick this piece. This can now then be separate.
Well, that is a brain issue. Of course, it's a mind issue too, but fundamentally it's a brain issue. So what I mean by that? Where is the matter of territory pivoted, based?
Instinct.
It's based. Huh?
Instinct?
Yeah, that is based on what? On genes.
Mm-hmm.
Every animal with a brain cares about the territory. That is biological. We cannot compete with that. We cannot control it. We cannot force it. There is nothing we can do about it. And it's okay that is there. Because the reason why biologically we have the sense of territory is because, well, we know the story, survival, blah, blah, blah. But it's all to proliferate our genes. But it's fundamentally because that provides a sense of security to the brain, which is what the brain requires in order to function properly. Okay? That is the biological part. That biological part is informed the cognitive awareness of the territory and the protecting territory and stuff like that is informed by the reptilian brain, like you say, the instincts, primal instincts. That's fine. But we humans have also a psychological territory, or call it memetic territory, that is not informed and should never be informed by the reptilian brain, and should not even be informed by the limbic brain, the limbic system. It should be informed by the way we use, hopefully for a good form, the prefrontal cortex, which is logic, intellect, and reason. And in most cases, it's not. So we do have two territories. One is the biological. One is the biological one. So informed by the primal instincts, the reptilian brain, and the other one is memetic. That is not entirely bad.
No, okay, but the reptilian brain, the meme is copying the reptilian brain at this point. I think it's not the reptilian brain. The meme is using the reptilian brain's memory to create a territory. Because the meme needs somewhere to stand.
Yeah, the meme is running a simulation.
Right.
When it does that. And the brain doesn't know what is real and what is not. And that's why I say there's a brain problem.
Right.
For back to say. So it's the way we use the brain.
if I can identify the simulation and how the simulation is different to the brain, well, then that's cool.
But it's not really that. No, well, sorry, it is very complex, but it's not super complex. Now, why people why people have strong beliefs get offended or they freak out? They get even emotionally, they have an emotional breakdown eventually, or they attack violently or all sort of nasty stuff when their beliefs are criticized. Why? Well,
because they're being knocked off their territory.
We know clearly the neurochemical explanation of that, because we do have enough evidence of brain scans to support that. What they do, apparently their brain functions in the same very way when they are attacked by some kind of predator. The parts of their brains and the neurochemistry they perform in their brains that get activated is the same if compared with when they are so-called attacked. Their beliefs are so-called attacked. That is not true. They are only criticized or even mocked, maybe mocked or demolished, and so on. But it's not an attack because they're not going to die. They will survive, no problem. So what is going on there? Are they all stupid? No. What is going on there is that they are not willing, not able, and they could not care less to distinguish between what is memetic territory or memetic reality and what is brain reality and physicality. So what are rocks to define a physical territory? Psychologically, those rocks are memes, which can be values, can be gender values, can be meanings, can be all of those things together. Not can be. They are. So if we deliver a super bad information to the brain, where the brain is not capable of computing what is an actual rock or a wall or the fence or all the stuff or the position of some object that is mine, the brain is not capable of distinguishing between that territory that is physical and the memetic territory that is a value. The brain doesn't care what a value is. The animals do not have any values, and so are we. Our memetic evolution developed values, which is okay, it's the foundation of our civilization, is okay. What is not okay is that we don't compute our values properly. We take them for granted, and then they feed the implicit bias we carry around, the propensity to perform implicit bias. And neurochemically, this is not a philosophical something. Neurochemically, it's a very, very real reality. What happens in the brain is a very real reality, neurochemical reality. Because if I give to my brain the same message I will give to my brain in case my physical territory is under threat of some kind or invaded, I give the same exact message to my brain where my values territory, my memetic territory is somehow invaded, or I think that is happening. My brain processes the information exactly the same way because irrational emotions and rational emotions are chemically identical to the brain and in the brain.
Yeah, but I don't think that if somebody was attacking my property, I would necessarily immediately go to anger. And so in reality, I might be quiet, or I might be fast, or I might kick in some other skill. Whereas in this memetic situation... Oh, hello? Hello?
Yeah.
Whereas in this memetic situation, it is straight to anger. So I think in that way, the meme copying, it's not copying very well. And so therefore I can look at what activates a memetic response and how it simulates. Why does it choose to simulate a brain response? Obviously, because then it gets through quicker because that's how it If I'm looking at how an implicit, well, if this if a meme can walk past me or race past me, and I don't recognize it as a meme, I recognize it as a brain function, and therefore give it authority. Because if my instincts were to kick in, like for example, if I saw an animal coming at me and it was going to attack me, I would allow my instincts to kick in, not necessarily because I have a choice, but because those responses are not just stronger than me, but also they are often valid responses. It would be appropriate for me to follow a lot of those instinctual responses. Whereas a memetic response is not necessarily, in fact, quite often not going to be helpful to me. It's going to kill me for itself to survive. So to be able to be able to watch how the meme, I would have to look at the impulse that activates the meme to want to copy the brain function. What happens before that? Because the meme has already found the person to attack before it sets its territory. It sets its territory in front of the person, if you like, no?
Yeah.
But I was in the car when the girls told me, and I was all ready to go home and talk about it, and let's talk about how we can manage this situation. And then he said, and then they made us face the wall, and I lost it.
But it's very figurative.
Yeah.
It's an image. It's a strong image.
Yeah.
Also as memes, because fundamentally, facing the wall.
It's terrible.
Well, wait a minute. It's facing the wall. But the meaning involved involves humiliation, public humiliation, pushing people being subservient, and all the list is longer. So, realistically, physically, facing the wall is facing the wall. There's nothing really terrible about that. What is terrible is the meaning that the package of meanings that image contains.
Yeah.
And involved. The meanings, the package of meanings kicks in before the acknowledgement of reality. I mean, which is okay, because it's terrible, and that is true, objectively true. It's a violation, it's a deprivation even of humanistic rights. Let's use this. Use this term.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've already got the book on French law on human rights, and it's one of the first.
Yeah, because that we know that also even animals have certain codes and certain roles that have to do with self-humiliation, for example, like a dog showing the neck to the other dog. That is self-humiliation, but there is no such thing in nature except the humans of like imposed humiliation.
Oh, well, for example, dogs will nip at the back of the other dog's throat, at the back of their throat, which is a form of I am dominant over you.
Yeah.
So that's kind of almost humiliation of them.
Not quite. It's just a message. It is an information. It's not really humiliation. I don't think that a dog feels humiliated. There's only self-humiliation in nature, and not only among a few species, by the way. There is information based on fear. So I'm going to indicate you where I'm going to hit you. So beware. There's only humiliation. Eventually, the other dog reacts with a form of subservient humiliation that is also another information that biology is aimed at not being hurt, injured, want, and so on, and therefore that is self-preservation and survival. But it's also a message conveyed to the other dog and say, okay, I acknowledge you are dominant today, tomorrow we will see. Exit. Humiliation is purely memetic. And even when I say self-humiliation, well, that is not even quite true, actually. It's still all about information and communication. Humiliation is purely human because it is memetic and it is based on values. But long story short, what I'm trying to say is that when we acknowledge an information like that, facing the wall is just facing the wall. People are not going to die for that. But the package of values kicks in super quickly, and if we don't regulate that speed, what do you think? How do you think our brain is going to process that information? That is a meme. That is true. It's a nasty, terrible package of memes values that is objectively, indisputably terrible. Nobody can dispute that unless a person is an authoritarian idiot or just blind and stupid. But the problem is that if we allow the speed to kick in so quickly, we just don't have the time to educate the brain. The information is already delivered, and that information is perceived as a danger, but it's not a danger. It's just terrible, but it's not a danger. If the brain processes that as a danger, then that boosts and feeds anger issues that are not reptilian, are memetic, and that memetic territoriality or whatever it is, and therefore the reaction is nothing but our memetic environment trying to actually take over the genes by running a simulation that is a simulation of how the genes will work, but it's false because it is a simulation.
Why does the memetic environment try to take it over the genes?
Then we don't know that. That is a multi-million-dollar question. That's why we are memetics of the science. We just don't know that, and we are. People are working.
Well, hang on a minute, because we might not know that, but I'm sure that you've had some. Have you not spent time kind of thinking around that? Maybe the why is too strong, but there must be some information in there. Because it's still is it not an intellectual process?
Well, of course, I spend actually a lot of time thinking about this and the level of complexity this involves, because I know there are theories, but I'm not the kind of person that clings much to theories. I just like to come across the theories, and one of the theories is that natural selection made us evolve a toxic, counterproductive form of memetic replication as a way to actually exterminate the stream of species, as a failed species. That is a reasonable theory. I don't support the theory.
Hang on,
but
we created a toxic memetic environment to exterminate the species.
Yeah, because natural selection identified the human species, not consciously, of course, there's no consciousness, but just to use that as a metaphor, as a failed species, and then happened to the 99% of the species that lived in this planet in the past, even if there is no memetic replication. So that is a considerable theory. Personally, I don't support the theory. I think it's very flawed. I think it's very being seen from a human viewpoint. all that philosophy, we work like cancer and da. So, but it is a reasonable theory. Now, fact is that we just don't know why we sort of know why we have a benevolent memetic replication, and the reason why is also Darwinian, because if you live mainly driven by good means, then you civilize yourself, you become more intelligent, you live a longer life, and that is Darwinian, not only memetic, because that guarantees the expansion of and the extension, of your survival and your life expectancy. That is definitely Darwinian, intertwined with memetics. I definitely support that theory. And I don't even think it's a theory. But the point is that why do we have a toxic memetic replication that is all over the place? Look at the Jihad, for example. The Jihad has nothing to do with Darwinian, the Darwinian sense making, because it kills the host, not only other people. So why do we have that? Because what? The Satan or something, the devil? Well, that is, I don't even want to go there because it's utterly idiotic. Being very rational about that is we achieved what we achieved, and we definitely live in the best phase of human history. That is indisputable.
But this is despite our toxic malevolent memetic replication. If our toxic malevolent, we've survived despite this. So if this wasn't there, if you like, the species would be very different.
Well, it's very tricky, this topic, because if we approach this matter from a globalized viewpoint, so consider humanity in full, then we can say that toxic memetic replication actually contributed to the betterment of benevolent memetic replication. And that's exactly why, at the end of every catastrophic war, actually we have a booming of everything, quality of life, economy, technology, everything. But the point is that, is this the way things should be, really? Can there be something a little better than this?
Are we going to have to now thank religion that we can be free of religion?
Oh, the Judeo-Christian mentality loves this stuff. They love it. You have to suffer in order to see some betterment. No, that is utterly wrong. Despite there are some elements of truth, historically speaking, which I don't dispute, but doesn't mean that is the way to evolve for the better. Because, for example, machines, current AI-powered machines, they're not suffering at all. They're fun, actually.
Would that not be like a genetic memetic Manchurian candidate that we've kind of created our own Manchurian candidate between these benevolent and malevolent replications?
Well, we definitely do that. So why? We don't know. I think
our survival. If we are to survive, we have to understand that genetics is over a very long time, and if we look long term, we can see that we don't know whether the benevolent or the toxic replication will survive. If we look long term, it's very probable that we will eventually be consumed by this toxic malevolent replication. But we all hope that benevolent replication will survive.
So that you're talking about what people call the third replicator point, that is absolutely dangerous. It's very complex. So we are entering the third replicator point right now. And not right now, it started probably 20 years ago. But we are quite into it right now. So the first replicator point is genes, and we know what that is all about. The second is memes. And we sort of know what that is all about, and the problematic aspects that it generates. The third is us interfacing our genes and means with techno means. They becoming cyborgs, for instance, being interfaced with a percentage of intelligence that is not human and is every day on the rise. That is the third replicator part. Now, the artificial intelligence or artificial thinking has nothing to do with genes. They don't care about survival. They care about replication for the better. They only care about betterment, and we don't. Even if we think that we do, but we don't. Mainly into preservation. Genetically, we are into preservation in terms of biological territoriality, and memetically, we are into preservation in terms of preserving our status quo, comfort zone, values, traditions, and whatever that is, what we think is right.
So if the techno means decide that it's better to not have the humans, then that will be the end of the humans.
Well, we don't know. We will see. Now, artificial thinking doesn't match Darwinian evolution. It's 100% anti-Darwinian. Could not care less about survival, also because when it's digital, you can kill this machine, but you just kill an object, you dismantle an object. The artificial consciousness of that machine is already distributed in maybe millions of other machines, and even etherically in the ether. In the future, artificial intelligence will be intertwined not just with robots, but with likely everything, thanks to wireless nanotechnologies, even the rain, the soil, the biology, the atmosphere, and the planet itself, generating a network of artificial consciousness. So all of that won't care at all about the genetic logic, but it will care about the memetic logic, discharging completely what is toxic. And this is how they already work. I mean, in general, digital AI, and particularly deep neural machine learning, works this way, by discharging the data that are broken up or irrelevant or false or can be viruses or are problematic, eliminating all of that, filtering all that to achieve optimal betterment. That's it. And it's not exponential yet. When AI will go quantum, it will go exponential overnight, actually. Now, this is going to happen in our lifetime. We are approaching a reality where we will be interfaced, hopefully benevolently, with a form of thinking that is completely anti-Darwinian, and it could not care less about the genetic logic, but cares about optimization and maximization of ideal memetics, discharging the toxic means. Now, the question is, how will we approach that? Because we do value a lot of toxic means. Even we are eventually prone to say we don't, but we do. We go for it. We play games, we lie, we cling into strange ideas, we replicate patterns that are definitely toxic. So I think best case scenario, that kind of AI, future artificial thinking, will probably help us to understand why we do have a toxic memetic replication. And I think that will be revolutionary because will help us also to understand why throughout the history we never had a day of peace in this planet. There's been always some kind of killing in the world, or oppressing, or suppressing, or stupidity. That will definitely help us to understand the nature of stupidity that is enormously complex, since it is entirely memetic, because we were not born stupid, we were born ignorant. I think that will probably happen, and that will be very beneficial.
Well, yeah,
and if we go for it,
the AI that we're developing now is things to reconfirm our toxic means. Like the other day, I saw a mother reunited with her dead daughter through VR, virtual reality thing. And so the mother who has lost her daughter through death the daughter is then recreated by AI for the mother to experience somehow. It's weird. But I suppose by doing that, have you not seen this?
No.
Oh my God! You know the TV program. You know where they what's it called? Black Mirror. There's an episode that there's an episode that talks about this.
I saw the series, but I don't.
The one where the older daughter has died, and what they do is they download her her brain, her mind, into a robot, and then they create a robot that will now be their daughter.
Yeah, I sort of remember something like that, yes.
And it's really creepy and really spooky. Well, a friend of mine, well, it's not a friend of mine, somebody that I know she knows somebody I know, and I know somebody she knows, and we happen to be friends on Facebook, whatever. She posted this like, oh my God, this is so beautiful. And I'm like, no, this is weird and creepy.
So beautiful. Until the point it faces something like that for real. And it's going to happen. Why do we have a historically toxic memetic replication? We don't know. That's the answer. But more privately, why do we have a personal toxic memetic replication? Can we know that? Maybe not entirely, of course, but we can give it a try, because that is our stuff.
Yeah.
Now, fundamentally, to reduce this in more like small terms, if I receive, I will come across some information like this. My daughters have been put facing the wall. I receive this information that makes me tremendously upset. I cannot block that, and I should not block that. But even if I want, I cannot. I just cannot block it. That is reptilian. But the values, the meanings and the values hit first. Can I prevent that? Actually, they should not even hit. I want to process the meanings. I want to process the values. I want to process the implications without allowing them to hit. They don't have to hit. I want to process them.
Yeah, I want to use them to tell me why this is not okay. Because this is the problem. I'm telling myself, I don't know why this is not okay. I just know this is not okay, and I have to make that stop. But actually, I do know why this is not okay. Because even though I went in there and I asked him, did you do this? And he was trying to, and I said, wait a minute, but did you also do this? So I asked him, did you put my child put the girls in punishment? Yeah, but did you also make them face the wall? And then he was and then he was trying to pretend that, well, no, maybe, no, not really, no. And then I started shouting, because it's like, so now you're going to try to trick me. And obviously I was already furious. But at that point, there's an imagination that I don't know why this is wrong. And that's a child that doesn't know why this is wrong. I do know why this is wrong.
Yeah, but sorry, let me ask you a question. If that was not the situation, and the situation was, the teacher there, and you two, were having a debate, public debate on a stage, with all the people there, debating about the matter of how to handle, how to deal with the children. do you think you will be prone to yell?
It's possible.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to ask you,
There were other people
do you
there.
think that
There were other parents there. I was in public. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't a hidden conversation.
Yeah, but yeah, I understand. But there is a difference between an environment like that and an environment I don't know, a conference room where you have an audience. Eventually, it's also live. Let's say it's on TV, and this is a debate, and there are people there, and you want to make your point clear because you don't only want to tell that person you're doing something, you're doing that wrong. You want to convey a point because you have the opportunity to do that. Don't you think that your propensity to yell, for example, shout at the person will be different despite the propensity is there? But do you think that the manifested behavior will be different?
I don't know. If I was triggered, no, I don't think so, because if I was triggered in a certain way, I understand what you're saying, and that you would try to contain yourself even more. But I mean, if I look at past situations where you're at, I can get extremely upset. And this is why it's such a problem, because it does take over in such a strong way. I'm not joking when I'm saying it. This takes over. I'm not sort of like, if I was in a different situation, it wouldn't take over. This is why I'm keen to look at this and to separate it and to identify it, because it is so strong. It's like a black mist. It's like not even a. I mean, I'm just saying black mist because I've heard people talk about black mist, but it's not. It's like a. It's like I could explode. It's really like my brain is just. It's like it's linked to the rebelliousness. It's linked to the rebelliousness of I cannot bear this reality. I do not want this to be real. So if I'm saying to myself that I do not want this to be real, I do not want you to do this, and now you've made me face, you're making me react because you are activating this reality I cannot stand. So obviously there's blame involved. It's almost sort of like it's almost like another punishment. It's like I'm being made to face another punishment.
Yeah, but you understand, I'm not saying this to try to compare or something or to judge or anything like that. But do you understand that if you think that you will behave in the same way or almost the same way, that such as yelling in front of your audience, you are going to make your point, of course, and some people eventually understand that by acknowledging how upset you are.
Yeah, exactly.
But only minority.
I know.
You're going to
destroy
to sabotage.
But I know this. Why do you think why do you think I'm so seriously wanting to talk about this? I know that. I can see it. I can see that when the guy tells the guy I'm talking to just tell her to wrap it up and tell her to go away, that somewhere he's right. He should be telling me to shut up, because I would, if I was working from an intelligent point of view, I would not deal with somebody who comes to scream at me that they have a problem. Absolutely, I understand that, and I agree with that. And I would like to be able to be one of the people who drops this. I want to be able to drop this, because it upsets me that interferes in such a strong way. 100%. But I'm not going to say, oh no, if I was in public, it would be different. Because actually, if something is so upsetting, I'm not very good at controlling this stuff, and I want to improve this.
But it's not about controlling that.
Yeah, well, it's I don't mean to say controlling. This is why I'm trying to look at this territorial position and trying to identify, and because by identifying it, my brain, when it comes in, my brain will go, oh look, the territory is being marked. Hang on a minute, because then I can say, oh look, in my brain I can say, look. See how your territory is being marked. You remember because this is how I create signals in my brain. Look at how you're calling this your territory, your security, but this is not your security. And so then, if I can destabilize that memetic development visually in my brain, because it is all visual. And I very much do respond to visual stuff. So when somebody...
Well, we all do that.
Yeah, well, fine. I'm not saying I'm original, but I'm saying that I'm trying to put in breaks in my brain so that there are stopping points for the memetic replication. Visual stopping points.
Well,
because if it's a visual problem that's happening, I want some visual stopping points.
Yeah, it's very tricky. But it's also very important to understand that it's important to the paradox there, because if we think, we don't actually think, but if we have a perception that we want to protect our memetic territory, and because we want some security, by performing that with the yelling, all this sort of stuff, we are not going to even satisfy that. We're not going to have any kind of security in the first place. But we are even going to sabotage even the facade, the illusion of security. So it's an issue within the issue.
Yeah, and also when I talk about the situation, there is the rebelliousness that's coming in. Look at how I handled the situation. Look at what I said. Look at the arguments I won. Okay, I can see all of this. I really am, seriously, I can see all of this. And I'm not happy with that level of thinking that is running without my consent, if you like, or with my consent, that I'm agreeable to that, or whatever, however I can describe the fact that just as my mind is looking at that and saying, you're hurting yourself by doing this, or you're hurting the situation by doing this. The fact that my 10-year-old daughter can say, yes, it would have been better if you were not shouting. I'm upset about this, and I want to be able to discuss these things with people without shouting. And her saying, yes, it would be much better that you were not shouting. We both understand this. And I know that it's a basic understanding. I don't need to be that intelligent to understand that. But how can I? How can I pause each thing? And I really want to dissect it so that I have many places I can pause it, because it's painful.
Well,
it's painful to have it.
Well, I want to propose the question: can we block our values? Because we just can't.
I don't think I want to block them. I don't want to block them. That's not what I want to block. I want to identify when, like, if I mark my memetic territory, there isn't even anything in there. I'm telling myself I've got something to stand on. I'm imagining I've got something to stand on, but there is nothing in that territory. It's just a line. Before that, maybe there are values that triggered something. I'm not sure about what happens before I mark my territory. I suppose there's an element of the meme pushes you out of the way. There was if I'm going through the psychological activity like it's a physical activity, the meme goes, hang on a minute, not even, and pushes you out of the way because it's going to replicate here and it's going to take the opportunity to replicate here. It's done this before. It knows there's pleasure involved. It knows there's security involved because it has done this before. But my mind also knows that each time this replicator has activated, it has caused problems that equal you're the one to blame. So this replicator is ignoring that. I understand this at a fairly decent level, I think.
Yeah, I will agree with that. You know, what happens, there are plenty of videos, you can, if you want to bother, check that are about people playing video games, freaking out and destroying the computer and the keyboard and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Now, we don't really need those videos because most people are prone to do that. In video games, the more challenging the next level becomes, that is the purpose of the video game, the more people are prone to value the absolute frantic need to pass that value as soon as they can, because the more they try, the more they believe they come to know all the traps and the moves to pass to go through the value successfully, but that makes them even fail more and more and more and more. Then up to the point where they replicate the same value, same moves, this and that, by intensifying, maximizing the speed, and that minimizes the reason. So the problem with replication is not really the replication itself, but the speed.
Yeah.
The speed also forms a memory of that speed, and that memory releases frustrations that take place even before the speed happens. They are there, and that is implicit bias. That's why we don't even think, and we know that when we have anger issues, we are not thinking at all. That it doesn't require a very sophisticated mind to comprehend that, to acknowledge that. It's pretty simple. Then we get even more frustrated because we blame ourselves, which is futile, thinking, why I was not thinking about that. Why am I not thinking about any time that a situation like that presents itself? Well, what's the problem there really? Is there something wrong with you? No, but there is something massively wrong with the counting speed you apply or you allow and then apply. So if you want to pass the level, well, worst choice is to increase the speed.
Yeah.
The reason why we yell is because we want something quicker, something whatever we think we want. We don't even think usually in terms of what we want. But basically, we want the other person the person we are yelling to acknowledge something. We want a resolution of something. We want acknowledgement of problems, assuming we are right. We want, of course, a solution for those problems. But that is not going to happen. I think we self-inflict ourselves suffering because that fundamentally is about feeding the toxic memes, because that provides us some kind of very strange hope to have the benevolent memes counter-react, particularly when they are dormant.
Yeah.
But wait. The very common outcome of this very strange human behavior that is very, very, very common in a form or another is that the benevolent meme eventually counteracts but not in an intelligent way.
In a memetic
because I mean, it's not in another memetic, of course, you cannot counter-react in a genetic way because it's memetic, and the counter-reaction is based on compensation.
Fucking hell. Yeah, it's so true. So true. What else can we do? I suppose we look around to look at the safety physically, but we're not safe. If we have that going on, then we're not safe psychologically. And I know that we've kind of had this myth, but what can we do with that?
But that's why I've been talking about this for ages.
Uh-huh.
Nobody listens.
I'm trying.
The distinction between the act of thinking and the formation, the act of forming thought process is the key. Because thinking is not a mean in itself; it's an operation of the mind in combination with the brain. Developing thought process instead is always memetic because our thought processes do not exist without us in the world. I mean, any education that not pushes but highlights repetitively and deeply and deeper and deeper the relevance of acknowledging the distinction and working on it, that is the key, at least the educational key, but also in terms of personal development and better understand, better the development skills. That I strongly believe, maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think so. I think that is the key, because that allows us to separate what is healthy in terms of psychological network and environment and operations, and where the mind field is, without necessarily being in the mind field to map the mind field. That is the key.
Yeah.
Psychological suffering doesn't come from thinking, it comes from thought processes. That is indisputable. Who can dispute that? Well, some New Age people say, thinking is your ego. Kill thinking. It's all about emotion, that how it should be. Well, good luck with that. That's the same conversation that 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, if you're not dead, or in a mental institution. I think I strongly believe that is the key. If we work on it, then we can really. The reason about thought processes, our own thought process, and the collective ones, as we will do with viruses or non-viruses, benevolent bacteria, whatever, in a lab. And that is the application of scientific thinking to our actual life. By the way, that will also be a good way to resurrect the critical thinking.
Yeah. Our mind field is our healthy breeding ground and our personal laboratory.
Oh yeah, it's not just a metaphor, there is a fact. And those idiots that say, the mind is the enemy, well, really. What do you mean by the mind? If you refer to the formation of those processes without the thinker, well, I will agree with that. It's definitely an enemy.
Whereas
looking
for our original sin is like our own psychological black hole.
Oh yeah, it is. That's all where our cognitive blindness takes place, and that's why I strongly deny and criticize and disprove that all this nonsense of the subconscious mind and all the Freudian narrative. He was the one, by the way, that required a good psychiatrist.
Yeah.
I strongly deny that because that is also, by the way, is also Judeo-Christian. Carl Jung actually made that even better thanks to Sigmund Freud. Something like 50 years later, he refined that in a very wonderful way, brilliant actually. I cannot dispute that. His idea of the shadow and the archetypes. He also believed in God, by the way, and he was a psychiatrist. It's one of the most important thinkers that shaped the last 50 years of Western civilization. And Carl Jung was nothing but Judeo-Christian.
Yeah,
It seems that
in a
was not enough.
malevolent way.
He was also... Huh?
So he was very important, and he shaped the people's mentality in a malevolent way.
Oh yeah, of course. They went into academia dramatically, not to mention into the field of most of modern psychotherapy, and even a large part of psychiatry is permeated by the Jungian mentality. That is the modern version of Judeo-Christian mentality, just more intellectual, sophisticated, and also quite magical, because it is also intertwined with the New Age thinking. Carl Jung is, I strongly believe without Carl Jung, we will not have the New Age as it is today. It would be more like a kind of a sectarian stuff, cultist, more like kind of Scientology-alike, sort of New Age. We will not have really that. Many New Age people refer to Carl Jung, like Tia Swan, there's all about the shadow work, she calls it. And that is the reputation. She doesn't ever say that, but it's obviously stolen and plagiarized from the Carl Jung mentality.
Yeah.
The meme replicated also in the digital form brilliantly, actually. I have to give credits for that, because it's true, but it's still a very toxic, memetic mentality that we should not even come to terms with that. We should just understand that for what it is and demolish it, not entirely, we'll say, not entirely, but profoundly. There are some good elements there. I don't deny that, but we have to demolish everything that is toxic in order to understand the good elements and to turn them not into something benevolent, but something that has to do with betterment. For example, just to say something simple and just to conclude, it's good to be good. Come on, it's good. It's good. But not thinking carefully about that is definitely bad.
Yeah.
And masochistic. Because if you are good or too good and you don't think about that, well, how do you think you're going to end up, really? Hurt? Burned? Some psychological scars here and there, or many? That is usually the case. And the problem is that you will realize that when it will be too late to realize that and to handle that.
Yeah.
That is also usually the case. So why would we go for it, really? And what is the benefit, really? That's just to say, to have on our grave the sign, he or she has been such a beautiful person. Okay, wow.
Which you'll get anyway because of the fallacy and the bias that we create when somebody dies. So you're going to get it anyway.